Okay, we are back to this book, Cyrus Lakdavala, How Ulf Beats Black, and the game I would like to show you is game 24 between Cyrus Lakdavala and Bruce Baker in San Diego, Rapid 2007. Notice that Cyrus Lakdavala is rated 2500, Bruce Baker 2300, so there is a huge difference between them. It's practically a David versus Goliath, but it seems David will lose this time. Knight f3, and here there is a author comment that says, we count our wins against our rivals like notches on a military sniper's rifle. By my count, national master Bruce Baker and I have passed the 300 game count, which may be a world record for most rated tournament games between two players. But let's hope that Cyrus Lakdavala makes a book of those 300 games so we will be able to see them. Because in any case they are master level games, so I'm sure they could be interesting. c4, e6, g3, b6. So this is a kind of Queen's Indian answer to knight f3, and in fact this is the chapter 3 about the Queen's Indian and hedgehog lines. I was curious about this chapter for that, but I got in a sense the wrong game because I wanted to see the hedgehog. Bishop g2, bishop b7, castle, and king, bishop e7, b3, castle, bishop d2, d6, bishop d2, d6. A more normal move order runs in 7 c5, so he would play c5. But here we are kind of going into a hedgehog, we can see. Let's see if he plays a6, okay? Knight c3, c5, d4. This move enters the hedgehog lines, yes, which can be considered a subsidiary of a Queen's Indian. Ulf Andersson was one of the pioneers of the hedgehog structure from black side, as well as playing successfully against it as white. He recognized that white space is often offset by black's flexibility. Practically there are some pawn breaks with b5 and d5, okay? So this is the main difference between the two. And I don't like the light, so let's change it a little. And then, so let's see what happens. d4, c takes d4, yes. It says knight bd7 instead of c takes d4 allows white to enter a slightly favorable Benoni, but we are not interested in the Benoni. Queen takes d4, and here you have a diagram here. If you're not familiar with hedgehog structures, this capture may seem odd, but it's universally considered superior to knight takes d4, bishop takes g2, king takes g2, where white violates the principle the side with space advantage should avoid trades. So that's the reason why this move was played, because white, that has a space advantage, doesn't want to trade the pieces. Knight bd7. d7 is the knight's best placement. These two may surprise readers who are new to the hedgehog. In reality, there is just a review that I made of the hedgehog book, so for those who are interested, there is that to watch. The tempo gaining knight c6 instead of d7 c6 doesn't score well for black, since it slightly misplaces black knight, while sending white's queen to exactly where she wants to go. Where does she want to go? On f4, okay? And then there is rook fd1. White scores a very healthy 72.9% from this position in my database. Wow, that's terrible. That's scary, I would say, right? Okay, now there is a thing that I think many beginners, after knight bd7, it's white to move, right? Many beginners have a problem to decide which rook should go where. Okay, so it seems the best one is rook fd1, and it seems that Lagdawala once beat Walter Brown. That's interesting. With what? With knight g5. Wow. But he had nothing to do with the opening. Okay, obviously. But it's interesting that he was able to beat Walter Brown, because Grandmaster Walter Brown was kind of a very strong grandmaster, right? Okay, so this maybe is not the best one, okay? But it doesn't say clearly why. Okay, rook fd1, a6, now we are in hedgehog, e4. So notice here there is a kind of note with A and B variation, in which shows rook a c1 and knight g5. Now we may have an answer to the reason why this was the best one, because this can go here. If this goes here, this is out of the game in a sense, right? So now we can see why this and this are the right moves, okay? So I hope you will follow this idea. In any case, let's go back. After a6 there was e4, okay? But what I meant is that instead of e4 he could have played this, and he can play this only if you use this rook to go on d1, okay? Okay, e4, queen c7, typical formation of a hedgehog, rook a c1, wow, very good, rook a c8, so the queen can go here, h3, rook f d8. This rook can also be placed on the e file with rook f e8. Queen e3. White space may offer a tiny edge, but don't underestimate black's coil spring possibilities. White must be eternally vigilant for both b5 and d5 pawn breaks. Knight c5, knight d4, rook b8, queen b8, and rook e1. This is pretty wishy-washy, since I could have placed my rook on e1 to begin with. The reason this isn't really a major mistake is that time isn't such a big factor in such positions, where both sides typically shuffle around before undertaking committal action. Okay, thank you for letting us know. Bishop f8, rook c, d1. And this is made to discourage d6, d5, okay? And black does d6, d5. Hey, I just said discouraging d6, d5. Believe it or not, this logical looking free break loses. My opponent tends to be an aggressive tactical player who was experimenting with the hedgehog, which didn't suit his natural style. He didn't feel comfortable in the cramped setting and broke prematurely, very possibly to punish my aimless opening play. Black would still be equal with g6, so this is the move that he should have played, probably instead of d5. If playing for a win, I would eventually begin by a kingside pawn storm and either give mate or overextend, okay? However, we must say that the young Kasparov was also, I think, a tactical player, and he played the hedgehog, so I don't know. C takes d5, e takes d5, and then we have knight takes d5. Great move. Removing a kingside defender, black gets some activity for his Isolani after the inaccurate e5 and then knight f4. Okay, so this was the move to play because you needed to remove that, remove this defender. knight takes d5, e takes d5, and bishop takes d5. So now there is knight f5. A lot of white pieces, I have a black king. The attempted combination, so it seems that if instead white played bishop takes d5, rook takes d5, with the idea knight c6 attacking this and taking the rook on d5, it doesn't work because black plays queen d6. Okay, so that's the reason there why it wasn't played, and why white played knight f5. Bishop takes g2. Here there is another move that could have been done, bishop e6, but it seems black wouldn't really do well. Okay, and there is also an exercise relative to the line with bishop e6. So buy the book and get the exercise, okay? There is also two possible answers to that exercise. That's kind of interesting. Okay. Knight h6. G take h6. Queen c3. f6. Queen takes f6. And bishop e4. The only try for black to confuse the issue is to block the e file. Okay. Rook takes d8, rook takes d8, and here there is rook takes e4. Boom. So this is why I like this game, because practically in 28 moves is over. Obviously now black played knight takes e4, and I think you can see the end. If you can't, you need to pause the video and think and think and think, because this is a simple checkmate. Okay, so the last move is queen e6 checkmate. I hope you enjoyed this game. Again, this book is full of beautiful games that will teach you about strategy and ideas, patterns, so it's a good read in any case. I hope you will enjoy it.